Welcome. This session is an advisory committee overview. My name is Michael Voss, and I'm the Dean of Career and Technical Education at Mesa Community College. When you think about advisory committees, it's really important to just think of them as an advice committee. So the goal is to set them up in such a way that we get feedback in very structured ways so the committee members can quantify what it is that they want us to do to improve our program. So ultimately, that feedback results in a written recommendation that the program may or may not choose to implement. The advisory may ask for something that we simply can't do. It might be fiscally, not possible, or they may have some really pertinent feedback that we can act on, that's within our purview. So the important thing is whether or not we choose to or not choose to implement the feedback or the recommendation, that we have a means to close the loop on all the recommendation, either by creating an action plan to make that recommendation a reality or sharing with them, this is why we chose not to implement the recommendation. So here's a nice little quote from Elon Musk, and he also agrees. So Elon Musk is a well-known entrepreneur. He's the CEO of Tesla Motors, founded the SpaceX Challenge. He's one of these billionaires with brilliant ideas. But he knows the importance of a feedback loop and being a continuous innovator, and that's really what the advisory allows us to do. A high-performing advisory is our feedback loop to make sure that what we're offering is really hitting the mark. So step one to a great advisory committee with fantastic outcomes is building the right team. We want to make sure that we have the right people on the team that have been chosen to serve for very strategic reasons, and that they're providing a long-term value to our program. They have a vested interest in what it is that we do. So basically, we want to get the right people on the bus in the right seats. And then it's, once we have the team built, we want to manage those meetings, in a way that's meaningful. Creating high-functioning advisory committees does require preparation, a thoughtful agenda process, a way to communicate with people outside the meetings, because they're fairly infrequent, and to share information about the going-ons of the program in those big gaps of time between meetings. It's when you hold the actual meeting, these people's time, it's very valuable, as is ours. And so we want to adhere to a 50-50 rule. So share half that time should be no more, just not in the informational role. Half of that should be like advice time, where that committee really gets to evaluate the data, gets to discuss it, and I've got a nice process that I'll kind of share around that. But this should not be an information-only session. We want to avoid that. And then finally, the ideal advisory meetings have an opportunity for unfiltered conversation. Like we want to step out of the way as faculty, as administrators, as staff, and let the users of our product, the users of our educational experience, our students, speak directly with those who intend to perhaps hire them one day, the employers. So it requires a little bit of bravery to do that, perhaps for the first time if you haven't done it, but I promise you that is one of the very best things that you can do to have a high-functioning advisory committee. Now, we want to leverage that team. So we want to constantly think about that membership and, is it built in such a way that it's maximizing value, that's providing a good return on investment for the college and for the respective members of the team. So it's okay to, look at your membership list and say, gosh, these people really haven't either shown up or they haven't really contributed much to the feedback sessions, and it's okay to ask for different representatives or seek alternative viewpoints from industry, because you want people who have a real vested interest. And it's all about focusing on the program objectives, and the outcomes, so that we can create this continuous cycle of improvement. Now, that kind of gets to the higher calling of advisories, the optimization and having them set up in such a way that they can be transformative for our programs. So think of your advisory process as one way that you can gather and pull the insights and wisdom and sometimes even the resources so that your program can adapt to any challenge. I've known many high-functioning advisory committees that, if there's a need from that community of interest, they help pull in the resources that sometimes the college can't pull together in a timely manner. And so, a very high-functioning advisory committee creates this fantastic, flexible, and unified and unique program, to address the needs of both the students and the employers. So, we're not looking for a yes board. We're looking for an advice board. And I know that we have fantastic experts. That's why, the teachers teach what they do, and the program directors are chosen based on their expertise and knowledge in the area. But we certainly don't want to be in a situation where we view the advisory as simply a rubber stamp for our great ideas or another checkbox of things that we got to accomplish this year. It's not a task. It's actually it's a fantastic resource for us. Now, I know that our leadership here at the program level very open to criticisms and ideas, and really we want to have our advisory boards let them know that they're in the position to let us know what we don't know, right? So having an unvarnished conversation with our students with none of our membership in the room, we want the good, the bad, the ugly, so that we can make it the very best educational experience possible and align the outcomes of our program with what it is that the employers are looking for to hire on day one. So I've used the term communities of interest a few times, and so it's a common terminology used with advisories, and really that's all the stakeholders that are interested in your program. So certainly it's employers, it's students, it's graduates, it's faculty, it's administrators. I'll show you a whole list here in just a minute. And we want to get these advisory committees to come together, break bread with each other at least annually. There might be times where we need to convene some working subcommittees to work on particular projects for the advisory. It is okay, it's acceptable to allow participation via synchronous electronic means. Asynchronous means an email-only meeting where people aren't convening and exchanging ideas probably doesn't quite reach the bar for what we're looking for. And this advisory committee is really charged to assist and advise the program and the sponsor institution, in this case MCC, with formulating and periodically revising our goals and our learning domains, monitoring the needs and expectations of the industry, and ensuring that our programs are truly responsive to any requested changes that are made. Okay. So here's that community of interest list, some examples. It may vary a little bit based on your discipline. I've highlighted the employers and students as really two very impactful groups that should be well represented in your advisory process. Certainly graduates and faculty and administrators and other representatives, and it's nice to have governmental officials and the elusive public member who doesn't have any affiliation other than maybe just an interest or passion in the area. So when you think about who you want to have on your advisory committee, it's probably just as important, if not more so, to think about why. So when you choose people for your advisory, is it based on positional rank, title, that sort of thing, or is it based on the value that these folks have? So a lot of times I find that our best advisory board members are people who are a little bit closer to the to the new employee experience for that respective employer. The people who do the hiring, the onboarding, who are familiar with the skill level of our students in their first 6 to 12 months on the job. Of course, it's nice to have a CEO and those kind of folks on there, but if they're several levels removed from the onboarding experience and they don't really interact with our students, it's a little bit more challenging for them to relate to the student experience. All right, so oftentimes when you're recruiting advisory members, they're going to have some concerns. They're going to have some questions. The first and foremost is, how much time is it going to take? These people are busy and their time is valuable, it's limited, and so they need to see the benefit of serving. What's in it for me? Why should I serve on your advisory at Mesa Community College? And then they're going to want to know, what are the expectations? And what is the purpose of this advisory board? What does it serve to do? Why do you have it? Why do you meet? Of course, the reputation of MCC and the reputation of the program precedes that conversation. So in the background, they're going to be thinking, is this a reputable place? Is this program have a good amount of credibility out in industry? Do I have connections with the faculty there? Am I aware of a track record of success? Have I heard anything about that program? And then some people will have some concerns about liability, in terms of, if I'm making recommendations and they implement those recommendations and then students have a bad experience because of it, am I liable? And the answer is really no. At the end of the day, they're just providing advice. All the decision making still is bestowed upon the program leadership. Now, when you're trying to onboard new advisory members, again, address right out of the box the expectations and the value, right? So share the time commitment that you expect. So for most of us, it's probably reasonable to expect, at least a 2-hour meeting once a year. Occasionally, might get tasked to work on a subcommittee. There might be some email communication that's shared periodically throughout the day to provide some updates, and we do expect you to read that so that you're knowledgeable when it comes time to provide advice. You want to have some materials that describe the reputation of the program, any information you have about student success or economic impact, workforce development contributions. So, graduation numbers probably matter. How many people are actually coming out of this program? Are there any awards that the program has received? Are there accolades? People like to be involved with successful programs. And then you really want to articulate how service on that advisory helps the program. And really it's about creating value for the students and value for the employers so that we can train the very best workforce that they need to be ready day one. And it's a good idea to kind of think about this. Is there something that you could put on a one page front and back sheet of paper that would articulate this to a new advisory member? Which kind of leads me to a program information packet. You might think about that. So you have that sort of expectation and value document that you now created. You might want to put in there some bios of your program leadership and residential faculty. Put everyone's smiley face on there with a little bit of their background. And then there's some stuff that you can pull out of pre-existing materials to give them some background of the current issues and what's going on with the program. So certainly the vision, mission, the primary goal of the program, some select pieces from program reviews such as a recent SOAR or SWOT analysis, the most recent strategic initiatives from the program or department plan. That'd all be really helpful stuff to a new advisory member to get them up to speed. And then there's employer recruitment. So some of these communities of interest, you just don't really have a lot of choice. Your students are who they are, the graduates are who they are, the government officials are who they are, but you have some choice on industry partners. And so First and foremost, of course, use your existing faculty relationships with industry to bring in those people that you believe are key players. But there's another approach that you could use. So using Burning Glass, and you can contact my office or district workforce, we can help identify the top employers within a defined market, either within our service area for MCC or within Maricopa County, so that you're not missing some people perhaps that you just haven't run cross paths with, so that we can invite those top employers and have them represented on your advisory. Also really important, when you're choosing people from that organization, that they know that, it's a responsibility of the employer, of the industry partner, to send representation. If we can't if they can't attend the designated person, then send an alternate, to make sure that they are represented. And this is a little thing I'll talk about more in advisory best practice. More is better. There's strength in numbers. If you show up to advisory and there's only a handful of people there, you kind of wonder, is this program in good shape? Where are all the industry partners? So, and again, think about that employer representative. Do they add value? Not just based on positional title, but will they invest and commit to provide meaningful feedback? Okay, so name and title maybe isn't just enough. You're looking for their insights and their wisdom. Accountability is super important, and so we want to make an accountability loop and let people know about that. That we are accountable to the recommendations of, or the advice of, the advisory committee, and then vice versa. We have expectations that they show up, that they're invested, that they provide us their wisdom. And when we do get those recommendations, we will commit to closing the loop. We'll look at the advice, we'll create action plans, we'll communicate the outcomes, and by the next advisory meeting, close the loop on that. We want to be transparent about it and track the results of that continuous quality improvement cycle. So here it is, again, capturing that feedback. There's a lot of different ways that we can capture their advice. We could do it through surveys, the comments in the meetings, feedback on, maybe little instrument forms, little feedback forms that they could use throughout the meeting. There's a variety of ways that we might do that. So in closing thoughts, think about your advisory group. Does it fully represent your communities of interest? Have you captured everyone that you need to capture? Is it a source of pride for you? Do you really feel like the community is coming together to support your program? So we want to get to that level. And again, here's some of the resources. And finally, if there's any questions, again, don't hesitate to ask. Happy to spend more time with you on advisories, because it's a very meaningful part of our program's success. Thank you, and have a good day.